Okay, another day at the shop. The new EGR valve for the engine did come in. And when I say new, I mean new to me. It's obviously a used part. This is a part that doesn't fail real often. They're pretty solid. They just happen to fail on my bus. So I went with a used part instead of buying new or aftermarket. It was significantly cheaper, like $400 cheaper. So I figure if this one does fail again, then I will just replace it then. But we're gonna go with this one. Unfortunately, it apparently came off of a Midwest vehicle because it's rusted all to crap. So we're gonna do a little work on it here, clean it up first. I have just a wire brush here. We're gonna scrape some of the loose rust off. We're gonna run a reformer over it and a primer and then paint. And the primer and paint I picked is the high heat variants because this is an exhaust valve and we'll have exhaust gas, hot exhaust going through it. So I'm gonna start cleaning this up and then we will install it on the bus. Okay, that looks a lot better already. I just took a little brake clean and cleaned off the rust I scraped off the wire brush. So actually, probably on camera it looks worse now because it's a little bit wet from the brake clean, but as soon as that dries up, we're gonna hit it with the rust reformer. But before I do that, I'm gonna tape off the electrical components and then obviously all the openings. We don't want to get any reformer or paint actually inside the compartment. So we just want this exterior part to be non-rusting. Okay, got it masked off and the rust reformer on there. The instructions say to let that sit for 24 hours before painting, so we'll come back to this part tomorrow. Okay guys, no, I haven't filmed anything for a couple of days. Honestly, every time I work on this engine, I'm completely covered in grease, so I usually don't want to pick up my phone until I get cleaned up, but today's not nearly as bad, so I thought I'd show you a couple of things. Coolant lines are all done and connected. I may have shown you that already, at least for the heater lines coming out. But if we go around the other side of the bus here, the big one that's been a giant pain in the neck has been this one that I use the premium hose on. Goes from the reservoir, and this goes down underneath the engine, down underneath the oil pan. You can kind of see that it's encased inside the loom there, and then up and under the air side. That was a giant pain to get down and off. A lot of tough to reach brackets, including one right here on the there's still a socket on there, including that bracket right there in the back of the engine block. So not real fun to get off and work on, but that line is all done. And then when I pulled down, that's a low point, so pulling that line down, of course, dumped coolant all over myself and the shop floor and made for a nice mess. But that's done. Almost ready to refill. The only thing left to change out are these two little bleeder lines. One goes to the EGR cooler. The other one, I think, goes up to the air conditioners. It kind of gets lost up there in the air conditioners. I haven't fully traced it out. But the hose I have is the wrong size. This is actually a 3/8 inch hose, and I have half. So those don't fit, so I need to get some 3/8 before I do that. But today's project is replacing the EGR valve. You saw a little bit ago, this is a used part I picked up and it was kind of rusty, so I did finish painting that up. I got the old valve off of here just a minute ago, and I'm getting ready to reinstall this new one, and we should be making some good progress. One thing I did want to show you quick, my mechanic taught me this trick. Whenever you're replacing bolts on anything, use some of this anti-seize lubricant. You only need just a little dab on your bolts before you reinstall them. One, it makes them easier to screw back in. They don't stick nearly as bad. But two, the anti-seize then will last a really long time. So if you ever have to take this apart again, you don't have to worry about the bolts being rusted in or seized up, and you reduce the risk of busting off a bolt inside the part when you take it apart. So kind of a handy little tip. This stuff isn't horribly expensive. You can get it at any automotive parts store, but it really does make life easier. That actually went back on a lot easier than it came off. Amazing how that works, but new EGR valve is on, and hopefully that solves my primary issue with this bus, which was it choking itself out with exhaust and dying. So hopefully that fixes that main problem, and like I said, we've done a lot of preventative maintenance just with hoses and the cooler and some other stuff, but looking forward to hopefully soon getting this thing started up. I don't think I showed this yet, but that is the bulletproof EGR cooler installed. I wasn't able to actually locate a proper bracket for it, so did a little finagling with the old bracket to make it work. Not an ideal setup, but I wasn't going to spend $400 on a new bracket for that. So a collage fix, which I don't like doing, but sometimes you do what you gotta do. And then last thing I'll show you up inside is just that small little coolant hose that runs from the EGR cooler back into the engine block. Okay, half hour later, the air filter is reinstalled and bolted back on, and the I don't know if you can see that, probably upside down. All the connections going back in the turbo are reconnected. So I think that is it for engine work tonight. I'm going to hold off on filling the antifreeze reservoir until I get those bleeder lines. Since the bleeder lines are kind of a high point, I could fill it and be okay, but I think we'll hold off right now. The last thing we're going to do yet tonight is, you may recall from an earlier video, I had the TCM for the transmission reprogrammed to enable 6th gear. That is back, so I'm going to crawl under the bus and see if I can get that installed. Okay, TCM is back in. Went in fairly easy. It's just 3 bolts that hold that up there, and pardon the bad camera work, but the 3 connectors are all color coded, so you just insert those red tabs back into the connector, and then they slide right into the module. So TCM's reinstalled. Let's go up, turn the key on, and see what the shifter registers. Look at that, number 6. Awesome. Hopefully soon we'll have the engine work wrapped up and we can take it for a test drive.